What's up YouTube, my name is Byrdman778 and welcome to another Outriders video. Today I'm talking about what changes I think should be implemented for Devastator to really push them to the point where I feel as though they are a little bit more matched with the three other characters. Now, before we get into anything, I'll let you know I'm more likely streaming right now on Twitch, twitch.tv/Byrdman778. Start every single day starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go to about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So stop on by, let's vibe out, let's talk about theory crafting for Devastator or some other characters depending on when you're watching this video. But until then, do know you can also find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Byrdman778, and I'm also Byrdman here on YouTube and also on TikTok. Let's get into the video. So one of the biggest issues with Devastator is the fact that Devastator does not have an anomaly rounds skill in their skill tree. The other characters, Pyro, Trickster, and Techno, all have their own anomaly-related rounds that inflict a certain status effect on enemies and also just give them in general damage buff. Now, the biggest part about this as well is they have mods that help boost that up and essentially give them just absolute stupid gun damage for essentially for free while they're running around. This helps them push off of not having to use as many other skills and just makes them absolute trucks of damage. First is Devastator. Devastator, we don't have those anomaly rounds. And that's been one of the biggest issues that pretty much any Devastator I've talked to has had since playing the game. We essentially have to crutch off a lot of other abilities, weird synergies with weapons to be able to essentially mimic that and just be able to do anything. For the longest time, I have been able to do CT15 gold soloing expeditions with my other builds. You can check them out here on YouTube, but none of them have had those anomaly rounds to help carry it. Now, if we look at Devastator's skills here, you'll notice that there's a couple here that are ones that are, I would say, absolute the best things ever, really important for the character. And ones I would say is Earthquake, Golem, Gravity Leap, Impale, and Tremor. That essentially leaves us with 3 other abilities that I feel as though are kind of back and forth. You don't really notice a whole lot of people using them, or they just don't really push off really well in single player play. And that'll be Reflect Bullets, Boulder Dash, and Endless Mass. Now, quick thing with Endless Mass, we do have a build centered around Endless Mass here on YouTube, and it's one that I think is actually like not too bad once you get those tier 3 mods for it. Some of those tier 3 mods will increase the range of it and also increase the anomaly damage that enemies will take that are affected by this. Now, this is great for Devastator because pretty much the main tree that people are using for Devastator at this point is the bottom tree that is focused in anomaly damage. So once those enemies are afflicted by it, you're able to do a lot of damage to them. Reflect Bullets isn't bad for single player play. I've had a couple times where I've been able to get through some decent times on expeditions by myself in CT15 using this, whether that's using the abilities where it's like giving it more damage, it inflicts vulnerable on enemies, inflicts bleed, any of those like kind of like statuses, it's pretty solid for it. But it also shines really well in co-op play because you're able to take in a bunch of bullets for your team while they're able to produce some damage. Finally, that leaves us with Boulder Dash, which tends to be kind of the black sheep of the skill tree family. Unfortunately, Boulder Dash is kind of this super awkward ability that feels as though it was kind of a last minute addition to the game. If we read it out real quick, charge forward to interrupt all enemies in your path and deal 71,000 damage. At the end of the charge, it will smash the ground, dealing 71,000 damage to all enemies within a small radius around you. Now, it has an okay cooldown for this, but unfortunately, it really only shines once you have the Death-Proof armor set. That Death-Proof armor set gives it a 90% cooldown, so essentially you click and it's almost immediately ready again for you to use. This is nice because when it's like a mob-centered enemies, you're able to just like rush through them. But the biggest issue is you tend to just run through enemies, you slide off of them when you're going, and you just aren't able to control the path of the Boulder Dash. And there's even times where you end up sprinting a longer distance than you're supposed to be. There's times where you activate it and you're almost immediately hitting the ground right then and there. It's just a super awkward ability that I feel as though is kind of a second thought rather than something that was really supposed to be implemented immediately. What I would change for Boulder Dash to make it better, I would completely take it out of the game, honestly. But I would change it into an armor set rather than have it be a singular ability. And we would center it around Golem. essentially my idea is we make a set where Golem is like the tier 3 mods and stuff, and then the armor set ability is that boulder dash, where like maybe let's say you activate Golem and then you double click again on it and you can select an enemy and you do that dash at them, doing a bunch of damage to them, and change out boulder dash entirely for a rock bleed associated rounds. I was talking to my chat, a lot of great ideas were spit out about this, whether we essentially take maybe that bone shrapnel mod where killing shots at enemies cause them to explode, inflicting bleed to enemies around them. Do that just as rounds for the character, for that skill specifically, where we're constantly able to inflict bleed, since Devastator is supposed to be that bleeding character. If we look in the skill tree as well, unfortunately Devastator is really crutched off of that bottom tree because of bleed abilities like blood donation, things like seismic sentry, and finally Earth's Heritage, where we're getting that seismic boost to damage. Now, one of the biggest things that Devastator has an issue with is health regen at times with the other sections of the tree. Top tree, you have next to no health regen except for these two drive them outs that only essentially gives you an extra 10% weapon leech for your character. Now, you can use something like the statue set where it's going to give you that 100% weapon leech, but again, that's super endgame, and you need 3 pieces of that to achieve that. You don't just naturally get that awesome healing ability from that. Middle tree, we do have a couple health regens here in the Anomaly in the Veins, but that 3% health regen is just really not good enough for you, and I feel like a lot of times you just aren't able to keep up that health regen with damage, even with something like Mighty Tank, where you get increased firepower, anomaly power. Unfortunately, endgame content really crutches off anomaly power, so sections like this just aren't super valuable. Now, these are some things that I think personally that could really make this better for us as Devastators, and just essentially kind of focus our skill points in different sections of the tree rather than just that bottom anomaly. First and foremost, take out some skills from this top tree like Steady Hands, where we're just getting a decreased recoil. That recoil really isn't that big of a deal in the game, so maybe change that to another one of those drive them outs. Emphasize that weapon leech for our character. I think that'd be just a lot more important than something like that. Change out maybe one of these shotgun master or like the assault masters for a healing related skill for weapons. Push the player to want to do more gun damage rather than making us just want to go down here to Anomaly where we know we're going to be fine. And I'd say on here, on the middle tree, the Anomaly, the Veins, that health regen, boost that up a little bit. Make that solid like 3% each, or maybe even 5%. Emphasize the player knowing that, hey, we're going to have health regen in this. You're going to be able to be that tanky character and have output, damage output, and not feel like you're just about to get just smacked every 2 seconds. I personally have not been able to really feel as though that I can be a tank as Devastator with the top and middle tree, because I get one smacked by an alpha or something like that and I'm instantly dead. And when it comes to bottom tree real quick, I think it's pretty solid all around. If I had to change anything, it'd be maybe these red rivers. Maybe change it out for bleed damage instead of bleed duration, something like that, or make it like a multi-skill where it increases like 15% duration, 15% damage, something like that. But other than that, I think the bottom tree is really AO good. It's everything that I've ever wanted to be, and I think most players that are playing Devastator are noticing themselves constantly going to this tree because of just how strong it is. Some other important things that I think that we could really do to help benefit the character is looking at our tier 1 mods. Now, Devastator's tier 3 mods are all phenomenal. I love them all, have no issue with any of them. You have something with Golem where bullets reflect off of you, hit enemies, inflict bleed. You have the extra anomaly to Endless Mass. You have the double jump for Gravity Leap. You have Despair for Gravity Leap, which we have a video covering that. That is probably the best mod for this character. I love it, love it, love it. It's amazing. It's perfect. We should check it out if you haven't already. Earthquake's got a couple great ones as well. Now, I will say though that there is some just like awkward mods in here that I just don't feel like really synergize well with the character. Some of those being for like Endless Mass, where like inflict vulnerable, especially now after they nerfed vulnerable, brought it down to 15% effect. There's really no point in this. So something else that I would say is maybe change the inflict vulnerable, maybe inflict extra anomaly for a short amount of time, kind of mimic that tier 3 mod but make it a little bit softer, because that will essentially have players be able to use it, and then once they get that armor set and get that tier 3 mod, they'll be able to upgrade it and just do more damage. I think essentially you want these tier 1 mods to be just like the appetizer before the tier 3, where those are like the main course. You're getting a good idea of what you're about to get. Things I would change about maybe like Golem would be the fact that like maybe resistances on this one, the 33%, jump that up to like maybe like 50% or something like that, because right now you're getting like a 65% damage reflection with Golem, so maybe up the resistances a little bit to be a little bit better for you. And also on Golem, change out maybe like this bleed mod, maybe increase the distance of what we can do with that. I think the bleeding for it is great, but unfortunately the time that it takes for Golem to reset is a little less advantageous. So make these mods a little bit better so that it's more worth waiting for that cooldown. Impale, I think, is a great skill. I think the biggest thing for it needs to change is the fact that it has such a long cooldown. So maybe have a mod in there where it's able to do that. Helps cut the cooldown of that skill specifically, and that can synergize really well off of the ones that we have in our skill tree. Obviously, completely take out all the Boulder Dash abilities. I mean, if they're going to keep Boulder Dash, though, they need to have something where I'm able to select an enemy and then hit them. And anyone in the way in the meantime will get hit as well. I think that might be the biggest fix if they're not going to change Boulder Dash into an anomaly round type skill. Make it where I can select somebody, hit them, and then that be the end of the skill. Don't make me just like run off the map practically and not be able to really do anything. Reflect bullets, I think, honestly, when it comes down to auto reflect, I think that one needs to be a little bit better in general. I don't think we need to be taking as much damage while we have that. Maybe change that, it only negates, instead of 50% of the damage, make it like 75. You need to be able to incentivize players to use these skills that are a bit more non-offensive and more of a passive defensive offensive skill. You just need to want to use it in general. And right now I have no incentivization to use reflect bullets because, one, if I use it without auto reflect, I'm holding it there for a second, walking around where I could still take damage from my back. And whenever you activate and throw it out, especially on CT15, it's not going to kill anybody really. So you're more inflicting whatever that stats effect on a bunch of enemies, but then regardless, you have to go back out and try to kill them still. And then Tremor, I think Tremor needs to get a little bit more love. Tremor is a phenomenal ability. I would love an extra duration on it. And as well, I would love just more damage on those explosions. I think the healing aspect of it is right there perfect. But at the same time, I think it just needs more damage. I know on the statue set, there's a couple mods that help boost it up a lot. And I think those are great. But maybe some more tier 1 mods. Maybe fill out maybe even 2 more here just so you have it full. Would be really advantageous for the character. Thank you so much for stopping by this video. We're kind of theory crafting Devastator stuff. I think with all these changes that I kind of mentioned, whether it is changing Boulder Dash into an anomaly round effect where it inflicts bleed, whether it's just making Boulder Dash into a singular target attack, changing up Golem, changing up Reflect, changing up the skill trees and what nodes we should have. Maybe top tree, give it a little bit more health received. Middle tree, change those health regen nodes, boost them up a little bit so you're more incentivized to use them. All those things I think would really help out the character without making them overpowered on those other 3, the Pyro, Trickster, and Techno. I think right now Devastator is that chip on the shoulder character, and you essentially have to really push different synergies with armor sets specifically to really get the most out of it. I think the character should be able to just bounce off purples alone and still be able to have that same damage output, and again, have that kind of dessert, that main entree once you use an armor set specifically. But again, if you want to see all this stuff being theory crafted, make sure you're stopping over my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Byrdman778. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter for some terrible memes, terrible TikToks, and even worse videos. Great videos that my editor, Curzo, love him. Check him out. Dude, Curzo, put your little thing here. Right there. Perfect. Check him out. He's a great editor. If you're ever interested in some work, he is a good guy. He's a good guy to work with. So check him out. But anyway, I'll check you guys later. Again, 10 a.m. Eastern every single day. Twitch.tv/Byrdman778. You guys have a great night, day, whatever it may be.